Everyone says babies don't remember anything. That's wrong. In your first 2 years, you learned faster than you ever will again. A language, a face, how to walk, who to trust. You were a genius. And then your brain erased almost all of it. The most important years of your life are a black hole you can't see into. Not because nothing happened, because something happened to the memories themselves. Right now, you cannot remember being a baby. Almost no one can. Pick the very first memory you have. A birthday, a room, a face. And there's a good chance you were already 3 years old when it happened. Everything before that is gone. 3 whole years of your own life. Your first steps. Your first word. The first time you ever felt safe. All of it, sealed behind a door you can't open. So here's the question almost no one stops to ask. Where did those memories go? And are they actually gone or just hidden? For most of history, the answer seemed obvious. Babies don't remember because babies can't really think yet. Their brains are blank, unfinished, waiting to switch on. We now know that's almost the opposite of the truth. In your first few years, your brain was building up to 1 million new neural connections every second. Read that again. 1 million per second. You will never learn that fast again as long as you live. In roughly your first 1,000 days, you absorbed an entire language out of nothing. You learned to pick one specific face, the person who fed you, out of billions of possible faces. You worked out gravity by dropping things and watching them fall, over and over, running the experiment yourself. The baby version of you was the single most powerful learning machine on the planet. So the idea that you just weren't recording anything, it doesn't hold up. And we can prove it. In the 1980s, a psychologist named Carolyn Rovey Collier ran a now famous experiment. She tied a ribbon from a baby's ankle to a colorful mobile hanging over the crib. The babies, some only 2 or 3 months old, quickly figured out that kicking made the mobile dance. That part isn't surprising. Here's the part that is. Days later, she brought the same babies back. The moment they saw that mobile, they started kicking. They remembered. Not vaguely. Specifically, babies form memories. Strong ones. So now we're left with something strange. The memories were made, and then they vanished. The question is no longer whether you recorded those years. It's what happened to the tape. Here's the first explanation, and it's a good one. To remember your life, you first need a you for it to happen to. Psychologists have a name for the kind of memory we're chasing. Autobiographical memory. Not how to do something. Something more specific. This happened to me. On this day, and I was there. And that kind of memory needs scaffolding the baby brain hasn't finished building. It needs 3 things. A sense of self, knowing that I exist, separate from the world. Language, the words to turn a moment into a story you can keep. And a sense of time, a before, a now, and a later to hang the memory on. A newborn has none of these. There's a classic test for the first one. Put a small dot of color on a child's nose and sit them in front of a mirror. Before about 18 months, they reach toward the baby in the glass. After it, they reach up and touch their own nose. That tiny gesture is one of the first signs that a self has clicked on. And the memories of your life can't really stick until there's a self for them to stick to. So one answer here is almost poetic. You don't remember being a baby because, in the way that matters most, there wasn't yet a you there to do the remembering. And here's the unsettling twist most people never hear. The forgetting doesn't stop at age 3. A developmental psychologist named Patricia Bauer tracked the same children over years, asking them about events from their early lives. Young kids could often recall a surprising amount, a trip, a move, a birthday party. But when she came back to those same children a few years later, something had quietly happened. Many of the memories were simply gone. Researchers call it the memory cliff, a second, slower wave of forgetting that keeps quietly erasing your early childhood well into your 7th year, long after you'd assume your memory had switched on for good. So this isn't one mystery, it's 2. Why the earliest years never stick at all, and why the ones that do start to stick keep slipping away anyway. But even that's not the whole story, because there's a second explanation, more physical, more unsettling. And it leads straight back to that 1 million connections a second number. In 2014, 2 neuroscientists, Paul Franklin and Sheena Jocelyn, working in Toronto, published a study that pointed the finger at the very thing that makes baby brains so extraordinary: growth. The hippocampus is the part of your brain that files away new memories. And in infancy, it isn't just busy, it's flooded with brand new neurons. A process called neurogenesis. Their research, done in mice, pointed to something deeply counterintuitive. All that frantic new growth doesn't only build memory, it can bury it. Picture trying to keep one sentence written in a notebook while someone keeps tearing out pages and stuffing in new ones. The sentence was real, the page was real, but the address where it lived got written over. Think of your infant brain less like a notebook and more like a city in the middle of a building boom. Every day, new roads, new wiring, whole districts torn down and rebuilt overnight. Now, try to give someone directions to a single house in that city. By the time they arrive, the street's been renamed, the corner store is a tower, and the path you memorized doesn't exist anymore. The house may still be standing somewhere, but the map you'd need to find it has already been redrawn 100 times. That's a baby brain. The memory gets laid down, and then the ground beneath it shifts so fast that the route back to it simply dissolves. And the experiment backed it up. When the researchers slowed neurogenesis down in young animals, the animals held onto memories longer. When they cranked it up in adults, those adults started forgetting like infants. Same brain. Different speed of growth. A completely different ability to remember. So the very thing that made you a genius may be the same thing that wiped the tape. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking that's the end of it. The memories got overwritten, lost, gone for good. Case closed. But here's where it gets strange again. Maybe the door was never destroyed. In the last few years, a neuroscientist named Thomas Ryan and his colleagues have been chasing a wilder possibility. What if the memories aren't destroyed at all? What if they're still in there, yes, just locked? Working with mice, Ryan's team tagged the exact brain cells that lit up when a young animal learned something new. Then they waited until the animal forgot. By every normal test, the memory was gone. And then they switched those tagged cells back on by hand, using light. The memory came flooding back. The animal behaved as if it had never forgotten a thing. Sit with that for a second. The memory was physically there the entire time. The problem was never storage. The problem was retrieval. The door wasn't destroyed, we just lost the key. And whether you can ever find that key might depend on something you'd never expect. Where you grew up, and who you talked to. A researcher named Chi Wang found that the age of your earliest memory isn't fixed. It shifts from culture to culture. People raised in families that talked constantly about the past, that asked, "So what did you do today?" that turned ordinary days into little stories. They tend to remember further back than people who didn't, which means memory is partly a skill, something someone teaches you. Your first memory has a birthday, and odds are someone helped you make it. So let's go back to the baby genius you used to be. Learning a million things a second, laughing on someone's shoulder near a window, living through what may genuinely have been the most intense, most joyful, most important days you will ever have, and recording every one of them. Those days didn't disappear because they didn't matter. They disappeared because your brain was changing too fast to hold the file. Too busy building the exact person who would one day sit and wonder where they all went. And maybe, if the mice are telling us the truth, they're not even gone. Sealed away? Yes. Unreachable, for now. But still there. Somewhere in the architecture of you. You are the only witness to the most important years of your life. You just can't read your own testimony. Not yet, and there's something quietly comforting in that. You don't remember those years, but you don't really need to, because you didn't just live them, you became them. If you've ever caught yourself wondering what else your own brain is quietly keeping from you, that's exactly the kind of question this channel exists to chase. There's a lot more hidden in there. Stick around and we'll keep opening doors.